Okay, if you see these lung volumes and capacities, generally at rest, okay, the healthy adults averages 12 breaths per minute, with each inhalation and exhalation moving about 500 ml of air into and out of the lungs. Clear? Generally, the volume of air, that is the volume of one breath, okay, is known as a tidal volume. Okay, in case of these lung volumes and capacities, you remember the different terminologies. Okay, that's very important here. The first one is the tidal volume. Okay, what is this tidal volume? That is volume of one breath is known as a tidal volume. See, that means that is how much, which will be, you will call it as the tidal volume. How much will be the tidal volume? That is 500 ml. Okay, the tidal volume is 500 ml per breath. Clear? The volume of one breath is known as a tidal volume. Okay, the tidal volume is how much? That is 500 ml per breath is the tidal volume. Clear? And the total volume of air, that is inhaled and exhaled each minute. Okay, per each minute, how much amount of air that is going to be inhaled and exhaled is known as a respiratory rate. Clear? See, if it is multiplied by the tidal volume, then it is known as a minute ventilation. Okay, what is this minute ventilation? The total volume of air inhaled and exhaled each minute is the respiratory rate, and if it is multiplied by the tidal volume is known as a minute ventilation. See, the minute ventilation is how much? That is 6 liters per minute. And generally, what are the apparatus, okay, that's used to measure this volume of air and also the exchanged, okay, during breathing and the respiratory rate? All this is going to be measured with the help of one apparatus is known as spirometer or respirometer. Clear? The apparatus used to measure the volume of air that is going to be exchanged, okay, during breathing and the respiratory rate is known as the spirometer or the respirometer. And if you see the 70% of the tidal volume, okay, the total tidal volume is how much? It is 500 ml, right? In that, the 70% means that is 350 ml. See, the 70% of the tidal volume, if it reaches the respiratory zone, you all know what is meant by a respiratory zone and what is meant by a conducting zone. Clear? The 70% of this tidal volume that reaches this respiratory zone and participates in the external respiration. Clear? And the remaining 30% that is going to be remains in the conducting zone itself, and this conducting airway and the air that does not undergo any respiratory exchange, okay, this together you will call it as anatomical dead space. Clear? See, that means whatever the 30%, okay, that air, the total, the tidal volume that is remained in the conducting zone along with the air that doesn't undergo any respiratory exchange is known as anatomical dead space. Okay, and next we'll see about alveolar ventilation rate. Okay, that is the volume of air per minute that actually reaches the respiratory zone. Clear? That means not the total 100% tidal volume which is not reaching the respiratory zone, right? Only the 70% of the tidal volume is only reaching the respiratory zone. See, that means how much amount of volume of air that is reaching the respiratory zone per minute is known as a alveolar ventilation rate. Okay, the alveolar ventilation rate is equals to 4200 ml per minute. And if you see, if you are taking a very deep breath, one can inhale more than 500 ml. Okay, the normal tidal volume I told you 500 ml. If anybody is going to be taking a very deep breath, they can inhale more than the 500 ml, right? See, whatever that additional inhaled air we are breathing, that is known as inspiratory reserve volume. Clear? See, what is this inspiratory reserve volume? Whenever you are taking a deep breath, Okay, deep breath we are taking, we are inhaling more amount of air when compared to the normal tidal volume, that is 500 ml. See, whatever the extra amount of air we are going to be inhaling, that extra air you will call it as the inspiratory reserve volume. Okay, that inspiratory reserve volume is 3100 ml in case of adult males and 1900 ml in case of the adult females. And next one is, if you are inhaling normally, but if you are exhaling very forcefully, so that you are pushing extra amount of air than the tidal volume, whatever the extra air that is going to be exhaled, that is known as the expiratory reserve volume. Is it clear? The expiratory reserve volume and the inspiratory reserve volume. Okay, inspiratory reserve volume you are going to be observed whenever you are taking a deep breath. Clear? But this expiratory reserve volume you are going to be observed in case of normal inhalation, but forceful exhalation you are going to be observed this kind of expiratory reserve volume. Okay, and next one is the forced expiratory volume in second. Okay, what is meant by this forced expiratory volume in second? That means the volume of air that can be exhaled from the lungs in 1 second. Okay, that means with maximum effort following a maximal inhalation is known as a forced expiratory volume in 1 second. Okay, and next if you see, uh, even after the expiratory reserve volume is exhaled, some amount of air still that is going to be remained in the lungs. Okay, this volume which cannot be measured by the spirometry is known as a residual volume. Okay, residual volume means that is the air that is remained in the lungs. Clear? See, even after expiratory reserve volume, see what is meant by the expiratory reserve volume? See, that means more than the tidal volume, the air that is going to be exhaled out from the lungs, you will call it as expiratory reserve volume, right? See, even after that expiratory reserve volume, still some amount of air that is remained in the lungs, okay, that cannot be measured with the help of this spirometry. Okay, see, that amount of air that are present in the lungs is known as a residual volume. Okay, see, this residual volume is 1200 ml in case of males and 1100 ml in case of the females. See, suppose if the thoracic cavity is opened and the intrapleural pressure rises to the atmospheric pressure and forces out some of the residual volume also. Clear? See, first is the expiratory reserve volume, next comes the residual volume. Whatever the some amount of air that has been remained, you will call it as the residual volume. See, if the thoracic cavity is opened, see, this residual volume is also going to be moving out. Okay, but the still the whatever the air that is remain in the lungs, that you will call it as a minimal volume. Okay, finally the volume that are present in the lungs, finally you will call it as a minimal volume. Okay, see this minimal volume. Okay, this will be, you are going, this mainly this will be useful in case of babies. Okay, whether they have to find out whether the baby is dead or alive with the help of this minimal volume. Okay, they can be detect the babies, that is the fetus, whether it is a dead baby or live baby with the help of this minimal volume only. Clear? Yeah, next we'll see about the lung capacities. Here, the lung capacities are the combination of specific lung volumes. Okay, the combination of the specific lung volumes, you will call it as the lung capacities. Okay, we'll see one by one what are the different lung capacities. First one is inspiratory capacity. Okay, this inspiratory capacity means it is the sum of tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume is known as the inspiratory capacity. Okay, that is in case of males it is 3600 ml and in case of females it is 2400 ml. Okay, the inspiratory capacity in case of males is 3600 ml and in case of females it is around 2400 ml. Okay, what is this inspiratory capacity? It is the sum of tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume is known as inspiratory capacity. Okay, and next one is functional residual capacity. Okay, it is the sum of residual volume and the expiratory reserve volume is known as a functional residual capacity. Okay, in case of males, it is 2400 ml, and in case of females, it is around 1800 ml. Okay, and next one is the vital capacity. It is the in sum of inspiratory reserve volume and the tidal volume and the expiratory reserve volume. Okay, all these three together you will call it as a vital capacity, and that is 4800 ml in case of males and 3100 ml in case of the females. And finally, if you see, the total lung capacity is the sum of vital capacity and the residual volume is known as a total lung capacity. That is, total lung capacity in case of adult males is 6000 ml, and in case of females it is around 4200 ml. Clear? See why I have given all this calculated part, because sometimes they may ask questions regarding these lung volumes and the capacities also, right? And okay, next we'll see the different disorders of this respiratory system. First one is the hypoxia. See, you all know that's the absence or the lack of oxygen in the tissues. Simply, we'll call it as an hypoxia. Okay, hypo means less or lack of oxia, that is oxygen. Clear? An absence or the lack of oxygen in the tissues is known as hypoxia. And what are the main causes for this hypoxia is like anemia, okay, asthma and COPD. Okay, COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Okay, these diseases may lead to this hypoxia condition. And next one is the symptoms. If you see, like cyanosis. Okay, cyanosis means accumulation of high concentration of carbon dioxide. Clear? And the next one is numbness or pins. Okay, that means the area in particular part of our body will become numbness or pins, okay, which will be having a sensation like pins. Or sometimes you may feel that needle feeling in the extremities. Okay, extremities of the fingers you may feel like a needle feelings. Okay, these are all some symptoms about this hypoxia. That means whenever particular part in our body which will be lacking the oxygen, definitely you may observe these kind of symptoms. Okay, next one is asphyxia. Okay, see, this is also a condition of deficient supply of oxygen to the body. See, that is arises mainly from the abnormal breathing. Clear? If there is anybody suffering with abnormal breathing, okay, because of that abnormal breathing, if there will be a deficient in the supply of oxygen, that condition you will call it as a asphyxia. Okay, the best example is the choking. Okay, see, the choking means there will be airway obstruction you are going to be observed. That means mainly in case of the throat. Clear? See, because of this abnormal breathing, what happens sometimes the windpipe or the trachea got obstructed. So because of that, there will be a deficient supply of oxygen you are going to be observed to the tissues. See, that condition you will call it as a asphyxia. Okay, this choking means you remember that is obstruction in the trachea or in the airways. Okay, that condition you will call it as a choking, and the causes, see, already told you, that is obstruction of the airways. And the symptoms like very weak breathing, okay, low heart rate, and the skin color is bluish in color. See, that means whenever the oxygen concentration is decreased, automatically the carbon dioxide concentration is going to be increased. Clear? See, whenever the carbon dioxide concentration is increases, I already told you that is cyanosis. Here in that area, that okay, color will become bluish in color. See why? Because if there is an accumulation of carbon dioxide, or if you have been observed, if anybody suffering with the carbon dioxide poisoning like that, definitely the skin will turn into blue color. Okay, that's about the asphyxia. And third one is diabarism. Okay, this diabarism, if you see, it's a condition that is resulting from a difference between the atmospheric pressure and the pressure of the gases within the body. Clear? See, if there is a pressure difference between the atmosphere and the pressure of gases within the body, see, definitely the condition is known as a diabarism, right? See, that means what are the main causes for this difference in the atmospheric pressure and the presence of the pressure of these gases? See, that is underwater diving. That means those who are going for the swimming. Clear? See, in swimming, okay, not much, but if some people are continuously going for the divings, that is in the underwaters, okay, they may observe this condition of diabarism. And next one is in case of high altitudes. Okay, if anybody climbing onto the high altitudes, that is in case of mountains, as they are going to be climbing, that is very high altitudes, definitely there will be a pressure difference. You are going to be observed between the atmosphere and the pressure of gases within the body. And next one is tunnel boring operations. Okay, if anybody going for this tunnel boring operations, definitely you may observe the pressure difference. Okay, so which may leads to this condition of diabarism, and the symptoms, that is like unusual tiredness, paralysis, shortness of breath, and sometimes which may leads to the death of the individuals also. Okay, next we'll see about the oxygen therapy. That is use of oxygen as a medical treatment. You will call it as an oxygen therapy. Okay, see, when we are going to be using this oxygen therapy, whenever there is a low blood oxygen, or if anybody is suffering with this carbon monoxide toxicity or clusters headaches, clear. See, because of lack of oxygen, some experience the cluster headaches also. Okay, and also to maintain the enough oxygen while inhaled anesthesia are given. Clear? See, during surgeries, see, they will give this oxygen therapy. Why? Because during surgeries, they will give sometimes the anesthesia, that is inhaled anesthesia. Okay, through because of that inhaled anesthesia, to maintain the levels of oxygen inside the body, they can go for this oxygen therapy. Clear. See, those who are receiving this oxygen therapy, definitely they can see improved energy levels, and they can also see this sleep and better quality of the life. Clear. And we'll see in which conditions, in disease conditions, mainly this oxygen therapy is going to be prescribed. That is in case of COPD, that is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay, pneumonia, asthma, and heart failures. Okay, mostly they can go for oxygen therapy in these clinical conditions. And the normal levels, if you see, the normal levels of arterial blood oxygen are between 75 and 100 mmHg. That means if any oxygen levels of 60 mm of Hg are lower, indicates definitely they have to go for this oxygen therapy. Okay, the normal level is 75 and 100 mm of Hg. If anybody having the oxygen levels is 60 mm of Hg or less than 60 mm of Hg, definitely they have to go for this oxygen therapy. See, not only the less amount of oxygen, but too much amount of oxygen also can damage the cells in the lungs if it is more than 110 mm of Hg. Okay, next we'll see what are the different types of oxygen therapies. Okay, there may be different types of oxygen therapies, like by using oxygen gas or liquid oxygen or oxygen concentrators or hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Okay, these are the different types of oxygen therapies. First, we'll see about the oxygen gas. Here, if you see this oxygen gas that is stored in portable tanks, okay, these are also known as compressed gas systems. Okay, here, if you see this type of oxygen gases, we should not give to the patients. That means continuously. Okay, you have to deliver in pulses. Okay, but not continuously. And next one is the liquid oxygen. Okay, this is also stored in the portable tanks like that of the oxygen gas, but it is more concentrated when compared to the oxygen gas. Clear. And this will be helpful for people who are very active. And if you see, these type of tanks are refillable also. Clear. See, the oxygen gases which is okay, the stored in the portable tanks. See, sometimes if you when compared to the this oxygen gas and the liquid oxygens, okay, these liquid oxygen tanks that can be refillable here. The next one is oxygen concentrators. If you see, these are not like a tanks, these are the devices, okay, that takes oxygen from the room, concentrate it for the therapeutic uses, okay, and removes other naturally occurring gases. In the room means definitely not only the oxygen, there will be different types of gases that will be available in the room, right? See, but this oxygen concentrators means these concentrates only on oxygen that is going to be used for the therapeutically, and it's going to remove other naturally occurring gases. Okay, and there are two advantages for these oxygen concentrators. That is, it is less expensive and doesn't require filling of tanks. Clear. And next one is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and it is like a chambers. Okay, so this is like a chambers. People will breathe in pure oxygen in a pressurized room or a chambers. Clear that you will call it as hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Okay, in this the chambers, the air pressure is very high. That is 3 to 4 times than the normal. See why the pressure is very high in these chambers, because this increases the amount of oxygen that is delivered to the tissues. Clear? See, suppose if the pressure in these chambers is very high, then only the high amount of oxygen that will be delivered to the tissues. See, that's why the pressure in these chambers will always will be maintained 3 to 4 times more than the normal conditions. Okay, mainly this kind of hyperbaric oxygen therapy will be used in case of wounds and also in case of the serious infections. Okay, next we'll see what are the different benefits of this oxygen therapy. Okay, that means which can reduce the symptoms like headaches, irritability, fatigue, and also the swollen ankles. Okay, see all these symptoms can be reduced because of this oxygen therapy. Apart from that, increasing the oxygen levels inside the body, right? And finally, the resuscitation. Okay, it is the process of correcting the physiological disorders. Okay, that is lack of breathing or the lack of heart rate. Clear? See, mainly it can be done in intensive care medicines, trauma surgery, and also in case of emergency medicine. See, what is meant by this resuscitation? See, I told you which is the process of correcting the physiological condition or the disorder. See, that means sometimes have you observed if anybody is suffering with lack of breathing or because of decreased heartbeats, okay, they can compress with the help of two hands near the chest. Clear? Tightly. Okay, tightly they are going to compress with the help of two hands near the chest. Okay, see that's the process, you will call it as resuscitation. Clear? See, it is the process of correcting the physiological disorders. Okay, what are the physiological disorders? That is lack of breathing or the decreased heart rate. That conditions are going to be corrected with the help of this resuscitation. Okay, see that means with the help of hands, they are going to be compressed against the chest so that to increase the breathing or to increase the heart rate. Okay, the best examples like cardiopulmonary resuscitation and mouth to mouth resuscitation. Clear? Cardiopulmonary means I already told you, if anybody suppose the heartbeats are going to be decreasing, okay, the condition where the heartbeat is going to be decreasing or if the breathing rate is going to be decreasing, immediately the first step, okay, they have to go for this resuscitation. Okay, then only they can go for the different types of the treatment.